everybody and their neighbor. Welcome back to Gear and Gigs. I'm your host, Jet Stone. So glad you guys could stop by today. With me, as many times he has been before, the man, the myth, the self-proclaimed bass expert, Reggie E. How's it going, Reg?
It's good. It's you're setting me up again, but hey, Jet, good to see you.
Luckily, today's got nothing to do with bass, so you're safe from defending your crown that you so often talk about and really just
20 questions of failure is what I think you're referring to.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, go check out our Guess the Bass episode. I'll put a link in the description as well as maybe one of them things up top if I can figure out how to do it. But don't leave yet because we got something interesting for you. Now, this is a pedal that today that I don't think you, Reggie, I don't think you know, and I bet you guys don't know very much, very many of you out there, because it's just not that popular a pedal. It's a cool pedal. It does a lot of things. Actually, it's pretty complex, but yet simple, like the best people, right? It's got character aplenty, but it's so hard to explain and so hard to incorporate into a rig that a lot of people just don't check it out. So let me go over it with you and see what you think. All right.
Yes, this sounds like a pretty exciting show and tell. What's underneath the magic carpet?
So our signal today is going to be this custom shop Strat through our standard 2-Rock Studio 35 Pro. This pedal will be in between those two. The Studio 35 Pro is going through a different 212 2-Rock cabinet this time, so that's kind of new, although we're only going to mic up 112, so it's essentially the same, although it is a different ohmage, if that matters. Through our vintage tube mic, this time we're going into a different preamp. We're going into our ISA1 preamp, as you can see down there, and that's going to give us a super clean signal, going into our Digico board for A to Ds, and then straight into Zoom to you guys and to us and to Reg. So today's pedal, let's get that the timpani rolling, is the Strymon DECO. DECO, the Strymon
Heard
DECO.
of it, yes.
A lot of people have heard of it, don't know about it. This is just our MXR DC brick, which is powering that. So what the pedal is essentially trying to do is to be two large reel tape decks. Basically, that's what it is. It doesn't do any looping or recording or anything like that. It's more designed to simulate what they used to use tape decks for to get certain sounds that now we're very used to pedals doing. So it has a side that's the tape saturation side, and that's essentially distortion. So if you put it in the back side of a recording, it would sound like tape saturating and getting a little crunchy. If you put it in the front of an amp, which is what we're going to do here, it's essentially an overdrive, but it's a very natural, doesn't mess with your EQ overdrive because it's the sound of like a tape op amp overdriving, right? So like they used to do back in the day. The other side is the control of the tape decks. So basically what you've got is one tape deck that you are always running on at regular speed, and then you have another one that you can set a lag time. As you can see, there's a knob on there that says lag time. So that's basically setting the difference in time between the two tape decks. There's no multiple echoes, but that does mean you can get a single echo longer than a slapback, or a slapback, because you can control the amount of lag time through chorusing and all the way to flanging, right? In the old days, they would actually do flanging like that by having two tape decks running simultaneously and put their thumb down on the flange of the reel and just slightly change it like that, and that would create the flanging effect. So that's what that was called. We often call it here flanging and flangers. So
we like flangers.
We do like flangers here at the studio.
Interesting though on that story is there is a urban myth or legend that John Lennon actually named it flanger.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, probably in Abbey Road or whatever, because that's exactly what they did, and it was probably by accident. I'm sure, like most good things, it's accidental.
Right, Ringo bumped up against
right. It's like, hey, do that again, right? And so,
no, I didn't know what I did. So it'll do that. Chorusing, of course, is a little stretched further on the delay time, but you have to have some modulation in there. So that's what the wobble knob is for. That's the simulation of the inaccuracies or idiosyncrasies of the two tape decks, right? Because they won't go exactly the same. So that's some slight pitch variation that's very randomized, and you can dial in as much of that as you want. So you can get some pretty extreme, wacky, weird things, as well as really subtle stuff and really slow flangey things, which is interesting. But it's a different kind of flange. It's a very organic sounding flange. It doesn't sound like I was going to say like a pedal flange, which doesn't make sense as it's a pedal, but you know what I mean. It's got some hidden features as well. One of them is if you hold down and press down on the what do they call it, the double tracker button, and hold it, it will do a through zero flange the whole as long as you're holding down the pedal, and that is adjustable. You can adjust the time that it takes to do that, as well as by holding down both these knobs, both these buttons. You can adjust this knob, the first knob up here, to be a high pass filter. This one below it is a low pass filter. This one in the middle, the little one, becomes a boost for the double tracker side, for the other side. This top one determines the time for the flange, through flange, and the bottom one determines the stereo aspect, whether you want it in stereo or mono. We're running it in mono because we're going into the front of an amp, but it will actually run stereo, putting one tape deck on one side and one on the other, essentially.
Interesting.
It's a pretty wide-ranging thing. It's kind of hard to explain.
It sounds like we have a lot to go through with it, because it does so many different things. And I have heard of this. I kind of vaguely familiar with it, but I've never played with one. I've never heard one.
There's a switch that decides on how the two decks come together. Are they summed? Are they inverted? Or are they bounced? So it's a different sound for each one. Bounce gives the most noticeable effect. Sum is a louder sound, and the middle one, invert, throws them out of phase. So it's a thinner sound. So the saturation and the modulation, if you will, are two different effect sides. So let's listen to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put them both on for a second, because I want you to hear a combination effect that it can do, and then we'll work our way back to that, because it's kind of a cool effect. And this is the reason I got it, is because if you set the thing up right, it's like Alex Lifeson in a box. So here's our dry sound. Okay, pretty good sound. All right, so I'm gonna put this on and check out. So it's a far cry from.
It's pretty tasty sounding. I will say it sounded big. It also sounded, it lost definition on the bottom a little bit.
Now there, like I said, there is a low pass and a high pass filter, so you can change the EQ. But and I got the saturation up pretty high right now. But yeah, because it does. Saturation
it really
will do that. Yeah.
Yes.
But it doesn't sound. In a mix with drums tightening up the bottom end
and
that kind of stuff, I think it would.
It does sound organic. It sounds very natural.
Yeah. So let's check out the saturation side. So I'll dial it up from nothing all the way up. I'll try to compensate. There's a volume control that's only on that side, and I'll try to compensate while I'm doing that. So it's really just finding the balance, but
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: it almost until you started getting up to the higher levels, I was going. It's like an almost clean boost, right? Not quite
because it doesn't
clean
change the
boost,
EQ,
right?
it just kind of
But
like
it's pretty balanced and almost clean, but
right.
but it gives it girth and kind of gives it a little bit more meat to the.
Puts a little hair on it, just a little
But
hair
then
on
once
it.
you start getting up, midway, whatever, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's like a really nice light overdrive that just kind of really, sounds natural. You're right. It doesn't, like a lot of distortion or overdrive pedals. It sounds like it's a pedal. It's
It
not
sounds like the pedal right
Right,
away.
it sounds like
Boom,
the pedal.
there's the pedal. Yeah.
And that kind of does. It just sounds like it's just part of either part of the amp or
Or part of the guitar, like you've got like a preamp or something on the guitar.
right.
And I like it just like I said, just to add a little hair, a little sparkle on it. It changes the mid frequency a little bit, just brings it a little forward, but not because it's changing the mid frequency. It's more like it's just boosting what the guitar's already got, and you just can't hear it otherwise because it's otherwise overdone by the sparkly top end. So it kind of brings that up, evens that out. A little compression. I think it's given a little compression. So let me go to the other side. I'll set a 50-50 blend between the two tape decks. Now first I'll start messing with, I'll mess with the wobble and show you what that does, and then I'll put that back to center, which is about where it sounds, what you consider to be normal, and then I'll start messing with the time.
I like it.
It's organic,
I,
right?
I,
It's
I, I love
pleasant.
the character of it. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because like it was a flanger, and then when you started when the time got longer, it's like, well, never heard a flanger do delay like that, but it is. It's fun. It's kind of a weird delay. You were getting 3 repeats, and it was kind of like that seemed to be the max. You get 3 delays on it. Or 3.
That's in bounce mode.
Right.
In the other two modes, you only get 1 repeat. So in bounce, you'd get a third. So that's the longest delay time with no wobble. Even at its most extreme setting, it's still usable almost, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that it felt like the delay was kind of a little bit moving a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like
It adds some life.
moving. Yeah, Very interesting.
So let me turn up the saturation again for a little bit to give us a little bit more. And then I'll check out the 0 through flange. So I've got it real slow right there. Now I'm going to change the speed of the 0 through. Okay. So when I invert it, that's when you really notice the crossover point. If you run distortion into this, it's even more noticeable. Cool.
Yeah. Like I said, I like the character of it. I like what it does. I like what it doesn't do too. Sound like an effect. Who doesn't love some of that? That's just a good time.
Yeah, that's just fun right there. Put a delay after that, and then you could really go to town.
Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you put one in front and behind?
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah, it sounds really tasty. I like it.
So real quick, just to show you the difference between the 3 modes, I'll start with sum, I'll do invert, then I'll do the bounce. And by the way, there's a touch of board reverb on there. So that's what you're hearing.
Yeah, I like that both sides running together, because I think the almost clean boost with the modulation on they just kind of work together. It's just very natural sounding.
It has an expression pedal input too, so you can control things with your feet. But anyway, there you go. It's for some people it might be a one pedal solution. For others, it's a nice thing to put on the board because it's got a lot of capabilities. If you're looking for a really good slapback echo, I mean, honestly, it's got a pretty legit slapback if you set it about here. has that thing. It's earthy. It doesn't sound digital or fake, even though it is digital and fake.
Yeah, it is both digital and fake.
They were going to put that on in the marketing, and they thought, maybe we can come
Let's
up with
leave
something
that
better.
part off.
Yeah.
I will say this: 20 years ago, there was a huge difference between anything analog and anything digital.
Right.
Digital was coming up, but you could still, there was a huge difference between anything between the two. And I would say right now the lines are as blurred as they've ever been. And there's things, because that doesn't sound digital, it sounds very natural.
And there is there's volume boost available. We didn't really
Right.
crunch it up because I'm trying to balance some mic inputs, as you would have to if you had a sound guy. But if you use it as a straight boost that way, it can really send some level out to the amp as well. Well, there you go. The Strymon DECO, kind of a hard pedal to describe, and it's not the easiest pedal to demo. So hopefully you got something out of that. And I like it. I think it's a great pedal. And what do you think?
I
2
give it
thumbs up.
this. I give
All
it
right, it gets the seal of approval.
I think
We love
that's what we agreed, right? If we
That's
both
right.
do this, that's the seal.
the official Gear and Gigs seal of approval.
That's definitely a winner of a pedal. On the quality of the actual texture and sound that comes out of it, because it does
Make you do this when you talk about the
makes
DECO. You
do
kind of
this,
have to
right?
do
Because
this with your
you're-
hands.
Because you start here, but then you put it through the pedal, and it kind of does that.
Right, and
it's-
imagine in stereo how big it could get. I'm sure. it'd
Oh
be
my God! Then we'd be
phenomenal, yeah.
talking about you have to be as big as my hands can go apart. Which
This is
isn't
exactly
very
why I didn't do it in stereo, so we didn't
Right.
have to do that.
right.
We're going to leave it at that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate you hanging out with us. Tell your friends. Make sure you subscribe, like, please do all that stuff. Leave a comment. What the heck? And we will see you next time for Reggie E. I'm Jet Stone. Take care, everybody.